Ambassador Allison Wright stood at the podium, her back straight despite her weariness. The massive council chamber stretched before her, filled with representatives from over 200 species. The air smelled faintly of the cleaning chemicals, used to make the atmosphere tolerable for all the different beings. After 8 years as Earth's voice in this chamber, she knew the scent well. "Members of the Galactic Council," she began, looking at the datapad that held her prepared speech. The speech that would once again politely request equal treatment for humanity. The speech that would, like all the others before it, be ignored. She set the datapad down. A murmur rippled through the alien delegates. This was not how things were done in the council. Everything was scripted, formal, and predictable. For 97 years, humanity has been part of this council, Allison said, her voice clear in the suddenly quiet room. For 97 years we have followed your rules. We have shared our science. We have fought in your wars. We have healed your sick. We have traded fairly. And for 97 years, you have treated us like children. In the observer section, her aide Daniel Garcia shifted nervously. This was not the speech they had prepared. This was not what Earth Command had approved. The blue-skinned council leader, Kavnar, leaned forward. "Ambassador Wright, if you wish to register a complaint, there are proper channels." "We have used your proper channels," Allison cut in. "We have filed reports. We have submitted requests. We have lodged formal protests. And nothing has changed." The massive Geeth Valak, with his reptilian scales gleaming under the soft lights, let out a rumbling laugh. "The humans are upset again. Perhaps they need another century to learn patience." Several other council members chittered in what passed for laughter among their species. Allison felt her cheeks grow warm, but she kept her voice level. 3 days ago, I submitted a proposal for equal voting rights for Earth. It was the same proposal we have submitted every year for the past 20 years, and like every other time it was rejected without discussion. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes, stalks, and sensory organs of each major council member. But this time was different. This time, we learned that while you were rejecting our proposal publicly, 11 council races were meeting privately to discuss how to access human medical technology without fair payment. Technology we developed, technology we offered to share, through proper channels, channels you denied us access to. The chamber erupted in shouts and denial. The translator in Allison's ear struggled to keep up with the different languages. Halfway across the galaxy, President Nathan Hayes sat in the Oval Office, watching the council feed with his advisors. The transmission lagged by 17 minutes, due to the vast distance, but he already knew what would happen. The decision had been made weeks ago after they had discovered the truth. "Madam President," said General Linda Collins, sliding a tablet across the desk. "The intelligence is confirmed. 3 different council species have been secretly arming the frontier colonies against us." Hayes studied the report. The evidence was clear. While smiling in diplomatic meetings, the Torvak Confederation and their allies had been supplying human separatist groups with weapons that could bypass Earth's defense systems. Weapons they could only have if they had stolen the designs from Earth's supposedly secure council submissions. "And the isolation shield?" Hayes asked, looking up. "Ready for activation," Collins replied. "We've been building it piece by piece for 15 years, disguising the components as regular satellites and defense platforms. The council never noticed because they never bothered to really look at what we were doing." Back in the council chamber, Allison continued despite the uproar. "Yesterday, Earth intercepted communications proving that council members have been arming human separatist groups. The same council members who rejected our request for help with those very groups." The chamber fell silent. This was a serious accusation, one that could not be laughed away. Council leader Kavnar's face darkened to a deep purple. "These are grave charges, Ambassador. Do you have proof?" "We do. Proof we will not share because the last time we shared sensitive information with this council, that information was used against us." Geeth Valak stood, his massive form towering over his section of the chamber. "This is outrageous. The human makes wild accusations without evidence. This is exactly why your species is not ready for full council membership. Allison smiled sadly. Thank you, Representative Geithvalik, for making my point so clearly. She turned back to the wider chamber. Humanity has tried to be a good partner. We have tried to earn your respect. But after nearly a century, it has become clear that this is not a partnership of equals, and it never will be. Her personal communicator vibrated against her wrist. The message was simple. Exodus approved. Allison took a deep breath. As of this moment, Earth is formally withdrawing from all Galactic Council treaties, agreements, and obligations. We will no longer participate in Council activities. We will no longer submit to Council authority. The chamber exploded into chaos. Council leader Kavnar banged his ceremonial staff trying to restore order. You cannot simply withdraw, he shouted over the noise. There are procedures, committees, studies must be conducted. Allison shook her head. Not anymore. Not for us. She unpinned the council emblem from her jacket and placed it on the podium. Humanity is going home. She turned and walked from the podium, ignoring the shouts and demands to return. Daniel fell into step beside her as they left the chamber. They're not taking this seriously, he said quietly. They will, Allison replied. As they walked through the curved hallways of the massive council station, Allison's communicator buzzed again. The message was from Earth Command. All human ships have been notified. Withdrawal begins in all sectors simultaneously at 600 Earth Standard Time. In her quarters, Allison looked out the viewport at the glittering expanse of stars. Somewhere, out there was Earth, still believing in the dream of a united galaxy. A dream that had failed them. Her personal computer chimed with an encrypted transmission. President Hayes appeared on the screen, her face solemn. Is it done, Ambassador? Yes, Madam President. I've delivered our withdrawal. They think it's a tantrum. They expect us to apologize within weeks. Hayes nodded. Let them think that. It will make the transition easier. She paused. History will remember this day, Allison. The day humanity finally stood up for itself. I hope we're doing the right thing, Allison said softly. When someone doesn't value you, sometimes the only choice is to walk away, Hayes replied. Initiate protocol exodus. Come home, Ambassador. Earth is waiting. As Allison began packing her few personal items, alerts began sounding throughout the station. On screens across the council chamber, reports were coming in of human ships changing course, human diplomats canceling meetings, human traders ending contracts. Humanity was leaving. And soon, the galaxy would feel their absence. Captain Olivia Martinez stood on the bridge of the Earth naval vessel Resilient, watching the busy activity of the Proxima B research station through the main view screen. For 6 years, this outpost had been her home, a place where humans worked, side by side with 7 other species on cutting-edge science. Now it would all end in less than 12 hours. Status report, she said, turning to her first officer. Lieutenant Steve Wilson checked his tablet. All human personnel have been notified. Packing is 62% complete. The Arxians are asking questions, but the Meridian science team seems to understand what's happening. Olivia nodded. And our special packages? All critical research is being copied and removed as ordered. The joint projects are being left intact with clear documentation. Through the view screen, Olivia could see people moving quickly between buildings carrying boxes and equipment. Even from orbit, the activity was visible. Captain, called the communications officer, Professor Ziv is requesting to speak with you. Again. Olivia sighed. Zivtan had been her research partner for 4 years. The tall, 4-armed alien was brilliant, and one of the few council species who treated humans as equals. Put him through, she said. The screen changed to show Ziv's worried face. The Meridian's skin had turned a pale yellow, a sign of distress in his species. Olivia, what is happening? Everyone is packing. The human quarters are emptying. No one will give me clear answers. She had practiced this moment in her mind, but it still hurt. Earth has withdrawn from the Galactic Council, Ziv. We're leaving. Leaving? The research station? But our work on the stellar mapping project? All our joint research will remain. We're taking only what is purely human innovation. Ziv's eyes widened. This is about the council vote yesterday, isn't it? But that is just politics. Science is different. Our work is important. It's more than just the vote, Olivia said. This decision comes from the highest levels, I'm sorry. On her tablet, a timer counted down. In 11 hours and 43 minutes, every human ship in Council space would activate their jump drives and head for Earth. The largest coordinated movement of human resources in history. When will you return? Ziv asked. Olivia couldn't bring herself to say never. I don't know. Take care of yourself, Ziv. She ended the transmission and turned back to her duties. There was still much to do. On the edge of the Sol system, Lieutenant Kevin Russell floated in his maintenance suit, making final adjustments to Satellite Array 117. From here, he could see the entire network spreading out in a massive sphere around Earth's solar system. Array 117 calibration complete, he reported. Moving to 118. Copy that, replied the control center on Luna. You're making good time, Lieutenant. Kevin pushed himself away from the satellite with a gentle touch and fired his suit thrusters. As he moved, he looked back at the distant sun. That was Earth's star, now just one bright point among many. Few people knew the true purpose of these thousands of satellites positioned at the edge of the Sol system. For years, they had been presented to the Galactic Council as a defensive, early warning system, a standard planetary protection measure. The Council had never bothered to check the designs carefully. Soon the entire galaxy would learn their real purpose. In his workshop beneath the Rocky Mountains, Chief Engineer Paul Winters connected the final circuits of the master control system. Around him, teams of engineers monitored massive displays showing the status of the global network. Shield generator stations 1 through 240 report ready, called out one technician. Power grid connection stable at 98.7% efficiency, said another. Paul took a deep breath. For 15 years he had worked on this project, always in secret, always under the cover of other initiatives. The isolation shield had been humanity's insurance policy, a way to protect Earth if the Galactic Council ever turned against them. Now, that insurance would be claimed. His secure line beeped. Winters, he answered. This is President Hayes. Are we ready, Chief Engineer? Yes, Madam President, the shield network is prepared. On your order, we can activate the entire system. There was a brief pause. How long will it take to fully deploy? Approximately 72 hours for complete coverage, but we'll have basic protection within the first 6 hours. Very well. Stand by for activation order. Back in Council space, Geethavalak paced in his private chamber. The reports coming in from across the galaxy made no sense. Humans everywhere were packing up and leaving. Trading posts, military outposts, scientific stations, all were being abandoned. His communication screen flashed with an incoming message from the council leader. Have you seen these reports? Kavnar demanded without greeting. Yes, Geethavalak replied. The humans are throwing a tantrum, as they always do when they don't get their way. This seems more organized than a tantrum, Kavnar said. Our analysts say they're executing a coordinated withdrawal from all council space. Geethavalak waved a clawed hand dismissively. Let them go. They'll be back within a month when they realize how much they need council protection. And if they don't come back? The question hung in the air. Geethavalak had built his political career on keeping humans in their place. For a century, his people had harvested human innovations while ensuring humans remained second-class members of the galaxy. They have nowhere else to go, he said finally. They'll be back. Ambassador Wright stepped off the shuttle onto Earth soil for the first time in 3 years. The Montana air was crisp and clean, so different from the recycled atmosphere of the council station. Daniel Garcia walked beside her, carrying both their bags. It feels strange to be home, he said, knowing we won't be going back. Allison nodded. Did you see the news feeds before we left? The other species are already making bets on how quickly we'll return begging for readmission. They really don't understand us, do they? No, she said. They never did. A government car waited to take them to the secure facility where they would be debriefed. As they drove through the countryside, Allison watched ordinary people going about their lives. completely unaware that today marked the beginning of a new era for humanity. Her communicator beeped with a message from President Hayes. Shield activation. In 30 minutes. All human ships report withdrawal proceeding on schedule. 97% will make it home before the shield closes. The rest will be directed to our hidden colonies beyond Council space. Allison looked up at the blue sky. Soon, an energy field would surround their entire solar system, cutting Earth off from the rest of the galaxy. The technology had been developed in secret, based on an ancient alien design that humanity had improved upon while the Council ignored their potential. "Do you think they'll miss us?" Daniel asked, following her gaze upward. "Eventually," she replied. "But by then, it will be too late." Across Earth, in every major city, people gathered in public squares and parks as President Hayes addressed the planet. On screens worldwide, she explained the withdrawal and what it would mean for their future. "Today, humanity chooses independence," she said. "Today, we step away from a partnership that was never equal, from allies who were never true. It may be difficult at first. There will be adjustments, but we will face them together as we have faced every challenge in our history." As she spoke, Paul Winters gave the command to activate the shield. Throughout the solar system, thousands of satellites hummed to life. Energy beams connected them, forming a web that grew denser by the second. From his position at the edge of the system, Kevin Russell watched as the shield began to form. It was beautiful in its way, a shimmering curtain of energy that would soon enclose their entire home. "It's working," he reported. "The shield is forming as designed." In the dark between the stars, the last human ships jumped toward home, racing, to make it back before the shield closed completely. Humanity had made its choice. They were walking away. 6 months had passed since the shield closed around Earth's solar system. The massive energy barrier shimmered at the edge of space, visible only as a faint glow to ships approaching from outside. So far, none had tried to break through. In his luxurious office on the Council Hub station, Trade Minister Voxterum stared at the latest reports with growing concern. The numbers on his screen told a story no one wanted to hear. "Minister," his assistant said from the doorway. "The emergency committee is waiting." Voxterum nodded and gathered his tablets. As he walked to the meeting room, he passed a window, looking out at the massive docking bays. Half of them stood empty. 6 months ago, those bays would have been full of ships from across the galaxy. The committee room fell silent when he entered. Around the oval table sat representatives from the 12 most powerful trading species in the Council. Their faces, tentacles, and sensory organs all showed signs of stress. "The situation is worse than we predicted," Voxterum began without greeting. "The Cygnus trade routes have collapsed completely. The Orion exchange has lost 40% of its value. Food shipments to the outer colonies are delayed by an average of 62 days. This can't all be because of the humans," said Delegate Mira of the Jury Republic. "They were just one species." Voxterum brought up a holographic map of trade routes. Red lines showed disrupted paths, yellow showed struggling ones, and green showed stable routes. The map was mostly red and yellow. "The humans were operating as middlemen in 43% of our major trade arrangements," he explained. "They were neutral parties who could trade with species that refused to deal with each other. Without them, ancient grudges are disrupting everything." "Surely we can replace them," said another delegate. "There are other neutral species." "None with the humans' unique position," Voxterum replied. "None who were trusted by so many different groups." The delegates fell silent, considering the implications. In the great medical center on Meridia Prime, Dr. Caliven frantically worked the controls of a regeneration chamber. Inside the transparent tube, a child lay unconscious, her breathing shallow. "Why isn't it working?" demanded the child's parent. "I don't know," Caliven admitted. "The chamber was serviced last month, everything should be functioning." But it wasn't. Across Meridia Prime, medical equipment was failing. Not all at once, but gradually, system by system. In her office, Caliven sent another message to her former human colleague, Dr. Samantha Foster. It was the 12th message she had sent in the past month. Like the others, it would travel to the edge of human space and be received by an automated system that would respond with the same message. Thank you for your communication. Earth is currently not accepting direct messages from Council space. Your message has been logged. Kayla Venn leaned back in her chair, her spotted skin turning pale with worry. The truth was slowly becoming clear. The Meridians had never fully understood the medical technology they had developed jointly with humans. The humans had maintained the equipment, handled the complex calibrations, and made the repairs. Without them, the technology was beginning to fail, and they weren't the only ones facing this problem. On Luna Base, Earth's moon, Dr. Samantha Foster read through the daily batch of desperate messages from across Council space. Her job was to sort them by urgency and forward them to the Human Isolation Committee. A message from Kalaven caught her eye. They had worked together for years, developing the regeneration chambers that had saved millions of lives. Please, the message read, our children are dying. We need your help. Samantha closed her eyes. She had friends out there, colleagues she respected, but the decision had been made. Humanity had been exploited for too long. She forwarded the message to the committee and moved on to the next plea. The first shots were fired near the Cygnus Gap, a narrow corridor of safe space between two radiation clouds. For centuries, the Vox conglomerate and the Jury Republic had both claimed the territory, but a human-brokered agreement had kept the peace. Now, with no humans to enforce the agreement, Vox ships had begun pushing into Jury territory. The Jury had responded with warning shots. The Vox had returned fire. News of the skirmish reached the council chamber, where Geeth Valak was meeting with the other senior members. This is getting out of hand, said Council Leader Kavnar. We need to send peacekeepers. With what ships? Asked another member. Half our peacekeeping fleet was human. Geeth Valak slammed his fist on the table. This is exactly what they wanted. They're trying to make us desperate enough to beg them to return. Maybe we should, suggested a quieter voice. All heads turned to look at Elder Zivtun of the Meridians. Maybe we should admit our mistake. Never, hissed Geeth Valak. We will solve these problems ourselves. The Council existed before humans, and it will continue without them. On Earth, life had changed, but not as dramatically as some had feared. Alan Murphy walked through his shop in Portland, arranging new products on the shelves. 6 months ago, many of these items would have been imported from across the galaxy. Now they were all Earth-made. How's business? Asked a customer. Better than expected, Alan replied. People are buying local. Now, these coffee mugs are made just outside the city. The customer picked one up. Not as fancy as the ones from Trill, but they've got charm. Alan smiled. And they don't break as easily. Across Earth, a similar pattern was emerging. Some alien goods were missed, but human alternatives quickly filled the gaps. Manufacturing that had moved off-world returned to Earth. Old industries revived and new ones emerged. In his apartment above the shop, Alan watched the evening news. A reporter stood in front of a new factory. 6 months into Earth's isolation, she said unemployment has dropped to its lowest level in 50 years. Industries that were dominated by alien imports have seen a renaissance of human production. The screen changed to show President Hayes at the opening of a new spaceport. We always had the capability, she told the crowd. We simply allowed ourselves to become dependent on others. Now we're standing on our own feet again. In her cabin in the mountains, Ambassador Wright sat on the porch, watching the sunset. After years in space, the simple beauty of Earth still took her breath away. Her communicator beeped with a message from Daniel Garcia. It contained a classified report from the intelligence services. The first major conflict had broken out in Council space. The fragile peace they had helped maintain was unraveling faster than anyone had predicted. Is this what we wanted? She wondered aloud. She thought about all the good they had done out there, all the lives they had improved. But she also remembered the constant disrespect, the theft of human innovations, the way Earth had been treated as a junior partner despite all its contributions. In the end, the Council had never valued what humanity brought to the galaxy. Now they would learn the hard way. As darkness fell, Allison looked up at the stars, knowing that somewhere beyond them, the galaxy she had once served was beginning to fall apart. The first cracks had appeared in the mighty Galactic Council, and they would only grow wider with time. Humanity had walked away, and the consequences were only beginning. 2 years after the humans sealed their borders, the Galactic Council chamber was only half full. Many delegates could no longer make the journey as transportation systems continued to break down. Those who did attend looked worn and worried. Council. Chancellor Zeverhoon, who had replaced Kavnar 6 months earlier, called the emergency session to order. The blue-skinned diplomat had aged visibly since taking office. Delegates of the Galactic Council, he began, his voice echoing in the too empty chamber. We face the gravest crisis in our 5,000-year history. Our communication networks are failing. 23 outer systems have gone completely silent. We can no longer reach them. A murmur ran through the crowd. Everyone knew why this was happening. The quantum relay network that connected the galaxy had been built with human technology at its core. Without human engineers to maintain it, the system was slowly collapsing. I propose a formal delegation to Earth, Zeverhoon continued. We will offer humanity full council membership with all rights and privileges. We will acknowledge their contributions and make amends for past mistreatment. The chamber erupted in shouts. Some delegates supported the plan immediately. Others were outraged at the suggestion. Gath Valak, thinner than he had been 2 years before but still imposing, rose to speak. This is surrender. We cannot bow to the humans after they abandoned their duties to the galaxy. What choice do we have? Asked a Meridian delegate. Our medical systems are operating at 30% capacity. The death rate on my world has tripled. My people are starving, added another delegate. Without the trade routes the humans maintained, food doesn't reach our colonies. The debate grew heated. Old grudges surfaced. Accusations flew across the chamber. The unity the council had once prided itself on was dissolving before their eyes. The outer rim of what had once been council space, a Krell battlecruiser moved silently toward the Tarsian system. Behind it came 2 more cruisers, then a fleet of smaller ships. In the command center of the lead ship, Warmaster Varax watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The once protected system lay defenseless before them. The council peacekeeping fleet that should have been guarding it was nowhere to be seen. Begin the invasion, he ordered. The Krell had been contained for centuries by council forces that had relied heavily on human military strategy and technology. Now, with those forces in disarray, the predatory species was on the move. Again. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out as opportunistic powers took advantage of the growing chaos. Commander Ryan Bishop stood in the dimly lit monitoring center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Around him, technicians worked at screens showing data from automated drones scattered throughout council space. The Krell have taken 3 systems in the past month, he reported to the officers gathered around the table. The Tarsian homeworld fell yesterday. Civilian casualties are high. President Hayes, now in her 2nd term, looked grim. And the council's response? Minimal, Bishop replied. They don't have the ships or the coordination to mount an effective defense. The peacekeeping fleet is operating at less than 40% capacity. Some of the officers shifted uncomfortably. Many had served in that fleet before the withdrawal. They had friends and colleagues still out there. Sir, said one young officer, we still have the capability to help. The 7th Fleet could reach Tarsian space in 3 days. Bishop looked to the president. They both knew what opening the shield would mean. The isolation decision was not made lightly, Hayes said after a moment. And it won't be reversed lightly either. We all sympathize with the suffering out there, but humanity's safety must come first. The president stood and walked to the large screen showing the galactic map. Red areas indicated conflict zones, yellow showed systems in crisis, and green showed stable regions. There was very little green left. Continue monitoring, she ordered. If the situation threatens Earth directly, we'll reassess. As the meeting ended, Bishop remained behind, staring at the screen. The galaxy he had once helped protect was burning, and he was just watching it happen. His second-in-command approached, cautiously. "Permission to speak freely, sir." Bishop nodded. "Some of the crew are struggling with this. Watching and not helping. It goes against our training." "I know," Bishop replied. "It goes against everything we stand for. But sometimes, the right choice isn't the easy one." He turned away from the screen. "The galaxy took from us for nearly a century. They used us when it suited them and dismissed us when it didn't. Now they're learning what that cost them." In the council chamber, the debate had gone on for hours, when an aide rushed in and whispered urgently to Chancellor Zivrun. The Chancellor's face paled. "We have just received news," he announced, silencing the chamber. "The Krell Imperium has invaded and conquered the Tarsian system." Shock rippled through the delegates. The Tarsians were founding members of the Council, one of the oldest and most respected species. "How is this possible?" demanded a delegate. "The Tarsian system is protected by the 3rd Peacekeeping Fleet." "The 3rd Fleet is currently at 27% strength," replied Zivrun. "Most of its ships are grounded due to maintenance issues or lack of qualified crews." The implications were clear. Without human support, the peacekeeping forces that had maintained galactic stability for centuries were crumbling. "We have no choice," Zivrun said firmly. "We must contact Earth and request their return to the Council, on their terms." Even Githvalak remained silent. The mighty council that had ruled the galaxy for 5,000 years was facing collapse after just 2 years without humanity. On Earth, life had not just stabilized, it was thriving. The brief economic disruption caused by isolation had given way to a renaissance of human innovation. In her lab at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Lisa Chen made the final adjustments to her quantum gravitational engine. The technology would make interstellar travel twice as efficient, allowing humans to expand further into their own solar system and eventually beyond the shield. "Ready for the test?" asked her assistant. Lisa nodded. This technology would have been restricted under Council regulations, which had always limited human advancement in key areas. Now, freed from those restrictions, human science was progressing at an incredible pace. The engine hummed to life, emitting a soft blue glow. The instruments showed perfect stability. Lisa smiled. "It works." Similar breakthroughs were happening across Earth. Gregory Williams had developed new terraforming methods that were already transforming Mars. Medical researchers had found treatments for diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries. In the 2 years since isolation, humanity had advanced more than in the previous 20. President Hayes sat alone in the Oval Office, reading the message that had finally arrived from the Council. It had taken them 2 years to admit they needed humanity. 2 years of suffering that could have been avoided if they had treated Earth as an equal partner from the beginning. The message was simple, a request for Earth to return to the Council, with full membership and equal status guaranteed. Hayes set the tablet down and looked out the window at the Washington Monument, gleaming in the distance. The decision wasn't just hers to make. The people of Earth would have to choose their future. But one thing was certain. If humanity returned to the stars, it would be on their own terms. Never again would they allow themselves to be treated as less than they were. The Galactic Council was shattering, and from its fragments a new order would emerge. 5 years after humanity sealed its borders, the Galactic Council officially disbanded. The announcement came with little fanfare, a simple message sent across the fragmented communication networks that still functioned. Ambassador Allison Wright, now retired to a small cabin in Colorado, sat on her porch watching the sunset when her old friend Daniel Garcia arrived. His government car kicked up dust on the dirt road as it approached. "It's good to see you, Daniel," she said as he walked up the steps. His suit was crisp, his posture straight, but his eyes looked tired. As Earth's Secretary of Interstellar Relations, he carried a heavy burden. "You too, Allison." He sat in the chair beside her. "Beautiful view. It's why I chose this place." She studied his face. "But you didn't drive all the way up here to admire the mountains." Daniel smiled. No, I came to tell you personally. The council is gone. What's left of the galactic government has broken into regional alliances. Allison took a deep breath. She had expected this news, but hearing it still affected her. So it's official. We broke the galaxy. They broke themselves, Daniel corrected her. We just stopped holding them together. He paused. There's more. 3 separate alien delegations have arrived at the edge of the shield. They're requesting permission to establish embassies on Earth. As council representatives? No. Daniel leaned forward. That's what's interesting. They're coming as independent species, looking for bilateral relations with humanity. No council, no middle management, direct partnerships. Allison looked out at the mountains turning purple in the fading light. On equal terms? Completely equal. They've seen what happens without us. They don't want to make the same mistake twice. Across human space, the 5 years of isolation had created a renaissance. Freed from council restrictions, human innovation had accelerated dramatically. In orbit around Mars, Gregory Williams watched as the first clouds formed in the thin Martian atmosphere. His terraforming techniques had progressed far beyond what would have been possible under council science protocols. Initial moisture readings are stable, reported his assistant. We're ahead of schedule by 17 months. Gregory nodded, watching the white wisps form above the red planet. In another decade, humans would walk on Mars without suits. In 2, they might swim in Martian oceans. Similar breakthroughs had happened across human space. Lisa Chen's advances in quantum gravitational theory had made interstellar travel twice as efficient. Medical technology had leaped forward. Even daily life had improved with innovations that would have been restricted under council oversight. In the Oval Office, President Hayes prepared to address humanity on the 5-year anniversary of their withdrawal. The speech had gone through dozens of drafts. This would be the most important announcement of her presidency. We're ready, Madam President, said her chief of staff. Hayes nodded and faced the camera. Across Earth and its colonies, people gathered to watch. 5 years ago, she began, humanity made a difficult choice. We walked away from a galaxy that had taken our contributions without giving equal respect. We closed our borders and turned our focus inward. She paused, letting the words sink in. That choice led to hardship for many in the greater galaxy. It also led to unprecedented growth and innovation for humanity. We have thrived in isolation, proving what we always knew, that humanity's potential is limitless when unchained. The President's expression softened. But we were never meant to remain alone forever. Humanity's spirit has always looked to the stars, reached for new horizons. Today I am announcing that Earth's leadership has made a decision. The isolation barrier will be selectively opened. Admiral Olivia Martinez stood on the bridge of the flagship, Resilient, now the most advanced vessel in Earth's fleet. Around her, crew members worked efficiently at their stations as the massive ship approached the edge of the shield. All systems ready, Admiral, reported her first officer. Martinez nodded. Begin shield deactivation sequence, Section 42A, Engineers. On Earth and throughout the shield network entered their commands. Slowly, a small portion of the massive energy barrier dimmed and disappeared, creating an opening just large enough for a ship to pass through. Multiple signals incoming, Admiral, said the communications officer. The delegations are requesting permission to approach. Martinez looked at the view screen showing the alien ships waiting at the edge of human space. They were not council vessels, but representatives of individual species ready to deal with humanity as equals. She smiled. Let them know humanity is ready to talk, as equals this time. The galaxy had shattered, but from its fragments, something new and better would emerge. Humanity had walked away, and in doing so had changed everything.